Over the years, our kids have had a lot of illnesses. 6 kids means a lot of childhood sniffles and coughs. And when our kids weren't feeling well, it affected our entire home. Luckily, some clever guys in Brisbane have come up with the perfect solution: Rehydrate.
Rehydrate are delicious drinks that rehydrate up to 3 times faster than water alone, packed with essential electrolytes. Rehydrate is one of the few rehydration products that is safe for all ages. Stock up at Coles and be prepared whenever illness strikes.
This is the Happy Families podcast with Dr. Justin Coulson. We're Luke and Susie, a husband and wife radio team with 3 young boys. This is the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants some answers now.
Quite frankly, I don't know whether we talk enough about discipline and public discipline and parenting, whether they should hit or talk or yell to their children. I think it's a subject that nobody gets upset about. Everyone's on the same page as. There's nothing to see here, right? We've had a bunch of things come to the show about this very thing.
We have a couple of messages in particular, actually. One from Sarah, one from Melina, in different contexts, but this same topic of public discipline of children. What is an appropriate way to discipline your children when you're in a public setting? Dr. Justin Coulson from happyfamilies.com.au. We throw this one to you.
Yeah. Well, if people are watching, you've got to make it look serious. Yeah. You've got to have the angry face and you've got to raise your hand. You might not use it, but you've got to make it look like you're disciplining your children.
How to discipline your children in public? That's not the point. What are they doing out of the dungeon?
The alternative, of course, to public discipline is when you crouch down in front of your child and you've got a great big smile on your face, so it looks like you're having a really fun conversation, and you're saying to them, if you do that again, I'm going to tear your arms
with your
off.
thumb just slightly squeezing them a little harder than they're comfortable with.
All right, I'm going to take this away from the sarcastic answers because I was taught by someone.
I went to university for 8.5 years to have an answer.
I was taught by someone, you praise your children publicly, you discipline them privately. So if your children misbehave in a public space, you take them away from the public space to address that behaviour. Your thoughts, Dr. Justin Coulson?
The look on his face
says, wow, I'd like to talk to that person.
No, I was just listening intently, Susie. So I think that we need to get back to the fundamentals of what discipline is. Discipline and punishment are different. And I know we've talked about this before. Punishment means I'm going to hurt someone because I don't like what they've done. Now, I'm paraphrasing the dictionary there, but that's essentially it. Let me hurt you because you're upsetting me. I don't like the way you're behaving. You're challenging me, and I need to punish you for that. I need to make you pay a price. I need to take something away from you or hurt you because of what you're doing. Discipline means that we teach, we guide, we instruct, we show a better way. And so should we discipline our children in public? Absolutely. We should discipline whenever they need to be taught, guided and instructed. Of course, when there's an audience, children tend not to be particularly responsive to our efforts to teach them, guide them and instruct them. Similarly, when we try to teach them, guide them and instruct them and they're feeling a bit emotional about life, they tend not to take very much on. So I would suggest that, let's say you're in the shops, you've got half a trolley of groceries and you've got to get out of there and one of the kids starts having a meltdown because you won't open up a packet of biscuits and let them have one.
And mums everywhere are now turning up to listen to what you say next.
I want a lollipop. I mean, you can go over and get a piece of free fruit, which supermarkets are now offering them. But if you've got a child who is dead set, I've got to have a lollipop, then it's time for us as parents to set effective limits and to talk things through. So there's a few things that we can do in public. Number one, before you get there, explain what the expectation is. Now, it might be the park, it might be the shops, it could be the beach. It doesn't really matter where you're going or what you're doing. Let the kids know ahead of time and let them know when there's 10 minutes to go, we're going to give you a 10-minute warning. When there's 5 minutes to go, you get a 5-minute warning. When there's 2 minutes to go, you get a 2-minute warning, and then we've got to go. If everybody does the right thing, we'll have a happy time. If anyone loses the plot, I'm going to have to pick you up and carry you to the car. We don't want that, do we? So, you can you can preempt, pre-arm, let everyone know what's going on. We're going into the shops, you can have a free piece of fruit, but there are no lollipops. If that hasn't worked for whatever reason, the next thing you do is you validate how they feel. Now, I know this is exactly the opposite to what we want to do. Because what we want to do is say, that's it, I've had enough, get over here. And
we want them to validate how we feel.
Or just do what we say they need to do. But validation can go like this. I like the idea of giving them in fantasy what they can't have in reality. It's a wonderful way of saying, I get where you're coming from. So this is something that I've done with my kids so many times. We're in the shops, they want the lollipop. I say to them, lollipops are pretty good, aren't they? I like lollipops too. If you were going to have a lollipop, which one would you choose? wouldn't it be awesome if you could get one that was as big as your fist, as big as your head? And then I turned this thing where I'm showing them, I really get how awesome it would be to have that lollipop. And then I said to them, but you remember what we talked about before we showed up, don't you? We can have a piece of fruit or nothing because we're not having treats because we've had too much sugar lately. And that sounds cruel to some people. They're like, my goodness, you've just, made all these almost promises. How good would it be to have this? And then you're saying no. But from an adult perspective, it makes sense as well. So I may have shared this with you once before. I'm looking to buy a new house about a year ago. I'm flicking through the paper. I see a house for sale that's perfect. Lachlan and Sarah Murdoch are selling their Bronte beachfront in Sydney. They only want $13.5 million.
Wow.
It's only about 13 million more than I've got. And I called out to Kylie and I said, Kylie, I found our house. and Kylie's my wife, by the way. It wasn't some... and Kylie came over and she looked at it and she could have said, how many times do I need to tell you? Would you stop looking at things that are just inaccessible, would never. She could have belittled me. She could have been angry with me. She could have just gone whatever and walked away. But instead, she looked at those pictures and she said, "My goodness, can you believe the view from the bathroom?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, look at the way the living area is set up. That is just gorgeous." And then she said, "Oh, Lachlan and Sarah Murdoch, $13.5 million. So what would you like to do about it?" Do you know what I mean? But she validated my feelings. She let me know how it feels. And when our kids are losing the plot, rather than trying to discipline them and tell them how it has to be, I think that it's much better if we try to work out what's going on for them and just show that we understand. You want to stay at the park. You're having so much fun. You wish you could ride your bike here all day.
Yeah. We do demand that they live in our world a little bit. It doesn't hurt to live in theirs every now and then.
If only to show some empathy before we impose our limits again. Yeah. Now, the last point that I'll make is that if the kids really do need to be disciplined, that is, if what's going on is unacceptable and needs to stop now, perhaps they've pushed another kid over at the park, maybe they're having an absolute meltdown in the shops. In those instances, we just need to pick our child up and remove them from the scene. That might mean leaving the trolley at the service desk and saying to the nice lady, "I'll be back in 20 minutes when my child has stopped melting down. Can you just put the ice cream back in the freezer and I'll be back soon?" Or just, leaving the park. And sometimes we do have to wrestle them and that kind of thing. And then we move away and it doesn't matter whether they're 2 or 12. Sometimes distraction or sometimes just a cuddle is the best thing. And once they've calmed down, we can talk to them about what's really going on. Again, I need to say this so clearly. Our kids don't wake up in the morning and think, right, today's the day. I'm just going to wreak havoc. I'm going to lose the plot when we go to the shops because that's what I know will get the attention that I need.
It seems like they do.
Yeah.
When we had twins, it felt like they were having meetings every day. And went, okay, I was yesterday, it's your turn today. And we'd have one perfect child one day and there'd be other ones, and they'd switch. They'd keep switching. I'm like, you're working this out. You can't give us one day.
And then occasionally they'd go, let's see what happens when we both do it together.
Tag team.
Yeah. It's amazing.
But our kids need to be understood.
Yeah.
And when we take the time to understand them and then work with them rather than do things to them, we can discipline them really effectively in public because they feel validated and understood and we can work it out together.
As adults, if we really can't grasp what's going on around and we don't get what we want and someone says something that we don't sort of think is good for us, we throw adult tantrums all the time. Like, we actually are no different in our behaviour. The difference is we as an adult get the freedom to give ourselves the space to calm down. But it'd be the equivalent to jump too early with the discipline or the punishment would be the equivalent for, as an adult, getting upset with our boss and then the police coming and throwing us in jail and us not really knowing why. Like it's for them, in their world of being able to understand what's going on around them, we need to find a way to give them that space and that calm down.
It seems like we expect more of our children than we sometimes expect of ourselves.
Yep.
I know plenty of adults that have some pretty big tanties, and they do them in pretty public places, on the road, for example, and it's not necessarily good at all. I think that we need to be able to manage ourselves so that we can actually work with our kids. And too many parents can't manage themselves and they get nervous. You're in the shops or you're in the park and your child starts to do something inappropriate, challenging, and we look around and we see 12 sets of eyes on us. Yeah. What's that parent going to do? And so we need to look like we're disciplining our child. I think the best thing to do is give our child a hug.
Yeah. It's quite funny because there's people who are making millions of dollars right now teaching adults how to, when you get upset, take a breath, take a moment, remove yourself from the situation. situation and then re-engage calm. Millions of dollars worth of guidance in that area. Whereas this is exactly what you're talking about with your child. Let's teach them now to learn how to take a breath when they're upset and get distracted, get calm, and then re-engage.
And I'm doing it for free. Oh, hang on. Happyfamilies.com.au.
That's right.
Happyfamilies.com.au. Happyfamilies.com.au. There we go.
Dr. Justin Coulson, thank you so much for looking at public discipline of children with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Susie.
If you enjoy the podcast, please take a moment to rate it on iTunes. When you do that, it increases the visibility of the podcast and helps more people to find it. And if you're not a subscriber, jump onto Apple Podcasts and subscribe so that you can hear every episode as soon as it is uploaded. For more information on all of Dr. Justin Coulson's books, programs and podcasts, go to happyfamilies.com.au, or if you'd like to have Dr. Justin Coulson speak at your school or event, go to justincoulson.com.